Good evening. Welcome to the Ashburton Guardian Mayoral debate. My name is Kun Lomas and I'm the editor of The Guardian, for those who haven't seen my face in The Guardian every day. The Guardian has invited the three candidates to this forum to give the community a better feel for their policies and hopefully encourage a better turnout to the elections. We'll start off, we'll rotate, just to make sure that everyone knows what we're doing. We are rotating the first person who speaks for each question, so we have every question starting with the same candidate. So this one, we'll start off with Russell. He's sitting on the outside. The question is, much has been said and written about the levels of debt this council is accruing to establish large projects. If you become the mayor, or remain the mayor, will your focus be on reducing rates and debt levels, or do you want to continue to invest to make Ashburton a better place to live? Russell.
I believe we can do both. I find the $70 million forecast debt level to be totally unacceptable, and with the new CEO already warning us that rates will rise with the changing regulations and cost overruns on the art gallery and museum. But fortunately I see in today's paper that the Art Gallery Heritage Centre Funding Committee meeting on Monday is an open meeting, and I'd like to thank them for that. We need to remember that a large portion of the Ashburton ratepayers are low to medium wage earners and on benefits, and every time there's a rates increase it has a detrimental effect on their cost of living. I will not turn my back on the views of our community, and I will listen and act accordingly.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome and thank you for The Guardian for running such an event. Council debt has grown as major projects have started, so that the cost of these projects can be spread across many generations. To me, this is fair and equitable method, so that people using a facility in 20 years' time actually get to pay for it, as well as the people today. I have already voted in this council for self-imposed spending and borrowing limits, and will not deviate from that principle to ensure that we don't get disproportionately large debt. One thing council has already done, and I voted for, is that council will not borrow more than 10% of the council asset, or have a rate rise no greater than 5% above inflation. Just to correct a couple of things that have been floating around in the media in the last few days, I had a discussion with our finance man this morning. Currently, the gross external debt is 38 million. Currently, the cashable assets, that's bonds or cash, is 22 million. So the net current external debt is 16 million. Yes, that is expected to grow to around 40 million net debt. But remember that a council always has cash around from rates coming in. It has cash around from bonds that can be easily converted. And the long-term plan debt over the 10-year period was supposed to be in year 1057, but today is only 47 external debt. So the net debt is 22 million. Sorry, the net debt is 16 million today.
Good evening, everybody. Like Angus, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to be here and talk to you. I guess as Deputy Chair of the Finance Committee, I have to front some of the detail here, and I'll try not to blind you with figures, but I have to write them down because it's not my strong point either. Angus has just said a couple of things that I totally agree with, and one of them is about intergenerational equity. That is sharing the debt load so that it is paid for by the people who are going to use the asset. In other words, we will be paying for the stadium for the next 25 years. You won't be paying all of that money up front, and it won't be hitting your rates up front in the total amount. It'll be allocated so that people who are going to use those assets are paying for them. So we have adopted that policy as a council, and we will stick by it. A couple of other ways of looking at debt is how you manage the repayment of the interest and the capital. As Angus has pointed out, we have set some limits around that so that this council will not be able to exceed certain levels. In terms of interest, well, one of the things we've said is that the interest can never be greater than 10% of total council revenue. At the moment, it's running at 7.9%. We've said that interest repayments, debt repayment, can never be greater than 25% of the total rate take. That's just the rates money. At the moment, it's running at 14%. So the actual debt, as Angus has said, is well below forecast levels. It will peak in the next couple of years because we have the cost of the stadium and the cost of the Museum and Art Gallery, the Heritage Centre, which will be coming on stream in the next couple of years. The bulk of that debt then is the 30 million or thereabouts that we're going to be looking at for the stadium. However, everybody's in favour of the stadium, the council's voted in favour of the stadium, and we are going to manage that debt level as well. So it will peak in the next 2 years, but then it will drop away. Our debt is always offset by other things that are happening. We have development contributions from, as the district expands, as we have more growth, as we have more businesses, more accommodation, more residential accommodation built, there is further contribution to the council. We also have assets. We have property assets, which previous councils have been far-sighted enough to invest in. We have property at Lakehood. We have the business estate at the northeast. And as those properties sell now, some of the money that comes back from those sales will be used to offset debt. If you want a final figure from me, in 2011, our debt level was 6.3% of our total assets. We've just done our long-term plan till 2022. Our debt level at 2022 is forecast to be 6.1% of our total assets. It's manageable, it's well controlled, we have financial constraints in place and policies that will make sure that all of that follows through. We do have, as I've said, 2 years of increased hit on the rates, but after that it will drop away again. All of that information, if you want the detail around it, it's in our long-term plan and our annual plan, and people are welcome to check that out.
Russell and Angus, you want to reply to anything that was said to you by your fellow candidates?
We've got the sale of some properties at Lakehood. Are we making money on the sales of those property over what we paid for them?
Yes.
Yes.
Substantially, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
They have been positive investments, absolutely.
Yep. And is the sales of the sections at the new industrial park, are they on schedule for where you'd like them to be at?
No, I'd have to say we would like to be selling more of them more quickly, but they are steady at this point, and we are looking at ways of increasing those sales.
Mm-hmm. And if we have all these cash reserves that Angus talked about, why can't we get some of our roads and footpaths fixed?
Yeah, Angus, go for it. You guys, please, go for it. Respond to.
Ladies and gentlemen, each year we go through what is called an annual plan. That is a budget. We can't actually deviate that much from that budget because we've taken that budget out to the people. They have submitted on it, or they have the chance to. We get quite a lot of submissions. And if we sell extra property, the cash reserves go up. We can't actually transfer that into any other account unless we go through a special consultation process, which can take up to 6 months. So we wait until the following budget before we make the adjustment. You have to remember that most of this debt is in things like sewerage systems, stormwater systems. Now, they are built for a 35-year period. So councils before us have quite rightly decided that it will be paid off a little bit each year, so it's fully paid off at the end of the 35-year or consent period. So everyone shares in the pain.
Anything to that, Don? Or?
Just briefly, in terms of putting extra money into roads and some of that infrastructure, we're between a rock and a hard place in some ways. There is a subsidy from central government for our roading, but the central government has dropped that subsidy, so that hasn't helped us. And if we want to do more roads, then we can get subsidies for. We have to take it from the money that you people pay as rates. So there's a balancing act there all the time. I think we're coming to some of that. Perhaps we've got roading.
Roading will be addressed later as well.
Can I just question Angus on the annual plan? Then where in the annual plan did it state that you were going to budget around 800,000 to buy property in Tynwald for the second bridge location before its land designation has gone through?
In the annual plan, you will not find an item as finite as that. We have a property account, a property division of council, and to be quite fair, seeing the topic has been brought up by Russell, we are looking at a road alignment for a new bridge that was pushed through in the early stages by a former council. If an individual is put ill at ease and is worried and challenges council to buy that piece of land, I believe we should help them out and do so as long as valuation is fair.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the next question. Angus, you can start with your answer on this one. The council has received some tough criticism over the last couple of years on its communications internally and externally, from a resident survey, but also from an independent review, and as you would have read in The Guardian, from many of our readers. How do you think the council communication can be improved to win over the critics?
Could you repeat the second last sentence, please?
How do you think the council communication can be improved to win over your critics, or the council's critics?
Please don't fit with your word. I will be the first to admit that the council communication is not what it should be. If you remember back 3 years ago, I said I wanted to improve it. Yes, we have improved it slightly. One full-time equivalent has come into the office staff. We are about to launch our new upgraded website. And one thing that is close to my heart, even though I haven't used it, is that people can now do your dog registration on the web. Now that may just seem a little thing, but it is part of the growing of the communication strategy. I actually believe that we need further communication skills inside the council building. But on the other hand, one can issue quite a number of press releases. I've had a bit of a count up, which I'll tell Mr. Chairman about tonight. I think since Christmas I've issued some 8 press releases that haven't seen their way into your paper, sir, in any shape or form. They have been ready to print. I know you have reporters at the council table, every council meeting, and well done for that. But communication is a two-way thing, ladies and gentlemen. There are some people out there, for example, that don't actually believe anything that comes from council. So what can council do about that? It's the same in our normal lives. Someone will walk into a shop and will say, that is the ideal tie for you, sir. But in actual fact, I might not like that tie. And sometimes we don't actually listen sometimes to the messages. That's a human trait, but we as a council will have to work to get around that. And well, I believe we have improved, and if that improvement continues over the next 2 years, I think we'll get there.
I agree with Angus to a fair extent, but I've got a couple of reservations as well. Some of the accusation about communication is that we have made decisions in secret, deliberately gone behind closed doors so that the public won't know what's going on. Well, that frankly is nonsense.
Rubbish, it's true.
No. Okay. I won't have that discussion with you right here and now, but I'm happy to have it afterwards. The point about the using in committee is that there are set rules for going into committee that we have to follow, and there are reasons for that, and we've done that. However, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that our communication with the public is as good as it should have been. It hasn't been. And indeed, a number of us around the council table have been pushing for quite some time to improve those communications. There is a working group on council communications that has met, has taken some action, and is continuing to meet. In fact, from memory, we have another meeting in about a week's time. So we haven't got to where we need to get yet at all. I think we haven't been good enough at communicating our decisions to the public. I think we haven't been good enough at explaining some of the reasons for those decisions to the public. I think we haven't been good enough at explaining some of the constraints that we have to operate under, which have affected some of the decisions that we've made. So yes, we can improve. There are a whole lot of ways in which we can improve. I personally believe that the columns that Angus and our CEO have started in The Guardian in the last little while are a really good step in the right direction. I think there are other ways we can make ourselves available to people for questions and answer sessions in public, and not just through the mass media, but opportunities for people to come and talk to us one-on-one. I would hope that that would be very much part of the strategy from the actions of the new council, and certainly if I'm the mayor, one of the things I want to do is be available to people on a regular basis in a specific time slot so that people can come and talk those things over. We get a lot of misinformation when we only read what's in the paper and don't get all of the background that goes with it. Can we do better? Of course we can. Will we? Yes, we will.
Council communication, in the words of a great advertising campaign, yeah, right. Council have employed a PR person, and you as ratepayers need to ask why. Why the extra expense? We all know we only employ PR people when you want to spin out the bad news. When you hold a large portion of your meetings in committee behind closed doors, then obviously you can't communicate the outcome of those meetings. This needs to change. More open meetings means more open communication. And with this, you win back the trust of the ratepayers. As Mayor, I would hold regular open clinics where ratepayers can come and discuss any concerns with me. These would not be held in the council buildings. They'd be at different points around town on a regular basis, and you can come and share your views and discuss any worries you have. But we just need to let people know what's happening, and then we'll get you people back on side with the council.
Thank you, Russell. Any rebuttals?
I haven't held regular clinics, quite simply because sometimes it doesn't suit people to front up at a certain minute or certain hour of the day. I believe I have been very available. For example, it was yesterday, someone made a phone call to the office, wanted to see the Mayor in the next week. They saw him yesterday afternoon. This morning I was down in Ashburton, and one person came into the office to see me just on the spur of the moment, and I visited one other. It doesn't actually suit people sometimes to turn up regularly at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock on a Friday or Thursday afternoon. If someone phones into the office, they actually want help then and then, just right at that moment. And I've actually prided myself in being available as much as I possibly can. If I'm chairing a council meeting, I'm obviously unavailable.